Do you know where the phone is? I need to practice my piano. Miles had it for music. Miles! Welcome to True Parenting. If you watch true crime documentaries, they're always doing reenactments of real life scenarios. So we're doing much more benign reenactments of real life scenarios of Alicia parenting our children. We are doing this so that you can get a look at what parenting based on unconditional love and agency looks like. I am playing the roles of our children. I do so with their consent and their enthusiasm. The point is not to mock them, even though I have fun in the roles. The point is for you to see what this looks like. Hope you enjoy.
Bryson, we need to talk about what your life is going to look like in light of recent choices you made. But more importantly than that, I want you to have an understanding of why you're making these choices, because I want to support you in making choices that are actually going to help you have a happy, fulfilled life.
Okay.
Here's the thing, Bryson, I don't even think you realize why you're making the choices that you're making. And once you realize why you're making those choices, then you can decide if those choices are really serving you.
What does that mean?
When I say you can decide if those choices are really serving you, do you know what that means?
No.
Okay, what does the word serve mean?
To do what they say? No.
So another word for serve in this instance would be support. Are the choices you're making really supporting you?
No, they're not.
Okay, so we can evaluate and we can start asking the question, what kind of choices would support me? But we need to dig a little bit further down into the root and say, why am I making choices that aren't supporting me? So in life, we always have a choice, correct?
Yes.
So what do we have a choice over?
Me?
You and what?
My actions.
Okay, so I have a question for you. So you get to choose your actions. Do you get to choose the outcome of your actions?
Yeah?
No, you don't. The outcome of your actions are just natural. Natural consequences aren't necessarily a bad thing. What is a consequence?
Explain it.
It's just what comes after our choices, right? So you get to choose your choice, but do you get to choose the outcome of your choice? Do you get to choose the consequence?
No.
Okay, if I'm an honest, trustworthy individual, what's the outcome of that?
Other people trust you.
Yeah. Do I like to be trusted?
Yes.
Do you like to be trusted?
Yes.
Is having trust part of your value system? Is trust important to you?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the question. Is it more important to you than what you want in the short term? I mean, those are the choices you've been making recently, right?
Yes.
You've been lying and stealing and doing whatever you need to do to get what you want in the short term.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's important to slow down and to ask yourself these questions, even if it's painful, even if it's uncomfortable, because if we never slow down and ask ourselves these questions, what happens?
Then we'll stay the same.
Yeah, you will stay the same. Not a whole lot will change. So once again, that comes back to our values and saying, do I want to stay the same or do I want to learn and grow? And what does growth take?
Responsibility.
It takes responsibility. What else does it take?
I can't explain all these things.
Well, if you'd like, we can take a break and we can come back to this conversation later. Would you like to take a break?
Yes.
For how long?
I don't know.
How long do you want to take a break for? I've got meetings a little later, but as long as I'm not in a meeting, I'm available to talk to you. At what point? I don't know exactly. I have a couple hours of meetings this afternoon. How about we just keep having this conversation for 5 more minutes?
Okay.
Okay, can you sit down?
Yeah, okay.
You can get that blanket right there if you want. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about what growth and change looks like. What does that require?
It requires responsibility and trustworthiness.
So let me ask you a question. In the moment when you're trying to grow or change a behavior, does it take more effort to stay the same or does it take more effort to change?
It takes more effort to change.
Right. So in the short term, is it easier to stay the same or is it easier to change?
Easier to stay the same.
So let's talk about what you're struggling with right now. What are you struggling with right now?
Not being trustworthy.
Not being trustworthy. with being dishonest and lying and stealing? What if you don't change that? What if you go throughout the rest of your life choosing to take what you want when you want it and to lie and to steal whenever you feel is necessary?
I'll go to jail.
There's a good chance of it, right? You steal something big enough and it's serious enough, you'll probably go to jail. So in the long run, is it easier to change or is it easier to stay the same?
Change?
Yeah, it's easier to change. So in the short term, it's easier to stay the same, right? Because it takes effort and it takes self-discipline and it takes accountability to change. But in the long term, staying the same makes life harder in the future. So the real question for you, Bryson, is what kind of person do you want to be? At what point are your choices going to get so uncomfortable and so unpleasant that you say, this is worth the effort to be self-disciplined. This is worth the effort to be accountable. This is worth the effort to be different. Because up until now, it hasn't been worth the effort. It appears like the stakes haven't been high enough. Do you know what I mean when I say the stakes?
Yes.
Okay, so as you get older, what happens to the stakes or the consequences?
They get higher. Do you know where the phone is? I need to practice my piano. Miles had it for music. Miles!
So Bryson, why do you feel like you're struggling with this? Because last night when we were talking, I gave you a lot of opportunities to be honest with me. And you didn't know that I knew you were lying to me. And I gave you multiple opportunities for you to be honest. And you insisted on your path of dishonesty until you couldn't hide it anymore. Do you know why that was?
No.
Like when you're lying to me, you believe it. And then even after you had been caught, you insisted that you didn't lie to me. And that's the most concerning part.
I'm sorry.
From my perspective, you seem to feel justified. And it seems that you're getting more and more insistent in being dishonest with your behavior. So I think one of the biggest challenges, Bryson, is you're not actually thinking about what you're doing when you're doing it. Like you do something small, or you're a little bit dishonest, or you take something. And then does the lie end there? Or to keep the first lie, are you going to have to do more and more to cover it up?
I looked through your whole room, dude. Miles had the phone. I asked him and he said you guys had it together. Remember, Miles came in here to get free music? No, I never allowed him to do that. Yeah, he did. Do you know where the old phone is? No, I know Miles had it. Why is Miles saying that you guys used it for a story last night and you're saying that you used it for music? He did.
Bryson, let's take a break for right now. You can go back to your room.
No, I need to eat.
Yeah, you do need to eat, but we're not doing that until a few things get resolved.
No!
You also need to sleep instead of being up and playing on the phone.
I didn't! In the morning I took it, okay?
Bryson, we're having a conversation about the fact that you repeatedly lied to me last night. And then this morning, while we're having this conversation, you repeatedly lied to me again. So you need to learn the hard consequences of choosing to be dishonest. You can make different choices, and I'm trying to help you understand the seriousness of the consequences. Because it's not a little bit of lying, Bryson, it's constant.
Okay.
And frankly, there's multiple factors here. You've now created a behavior pattern of being dishonest. Do you know that when you do the same thing over and over again, it creates pathways in your brain, and those pathways get deeper and deeper? So every single time you lie, it gets easier and easier to lie. And you've chosen a path where you are constantly, repeatedly lying, and it's getting easier and easier for you. And it's going to get harder and harder for you to change that. And the consequences are going to get more and more serious. And so I'm going to hold you accountable as your parent. But the best person to hold you accountable is yourself. And you need to decide what you want and be the kind of person you want to be.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's one factor, is you've created a pretty consistent behavior pattern of an unhealthy behavior that's not really serving or supporting you. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Number 2, what you eat really affects you. Sugar, food coloring, and preservatives really affect you. They affect how your brain works. They cause inflammation in your brain and body. And when you have inflammation in your brain, you don't think clearly, and it affects your impulse control. And I do my best to support you in eating foods that are going to help and support your brain. And you consistently try to go out of your way to eat food that's hurting you. So there's another layer to the issue. So we're going to take a break for right now.
For how long?
I don't know, Bryson. When are you going to be ready to come back and finish this conversation?
An hour?
Sounds good. I'll talk to you then.
Okay, that was awesome.
So fun. So you witnessed the first half of this conversation. There is going to be a part 2 that's coming out in a couple weeks. It's called When Your Child is a Klepto or something like that.
When your kid is a klepto.
Yeah, it's really affirming as parents. We are dealing with a closer personality, and we're not going to go very deeply right here into what a closer is. If you want to know more about our personality types, you can take the course on our membership site, or there's a video that does a pretty good job of an overview of it. It's
Marrying your opposite, we are two different.
We are two different. And we talk about the different personality types there. But here are the needs of a closer, right? Because we all have needs. We all have innately different needs. And when you're parenting a child that's drastically different from you, that's really challenging. This particular personality type can be just really challenging in general. It is very similar to my personality type, so I relate to it. It is a complete opposite of your personality type, so it is very challenging. For Jonathan. But here's the needs of a closer. You need to hold them very, very, very accountable. They are tenacious. They will stop at nothing to get what they want. And at a young age, if they are not taught morality, character, and ethics, that can look bad as an adult.
Well, and as an adult, they can be an incredible force for good because they will go after what they want and they will move mountains to get it. The issue is when they're still developing their morality, doing whatever it takes to get it could involve lying, cheating, and stealing.
Yeah, and so you help them see that by holding them very, very, very accountable. And I had a friend say once to me years ago, she was like, "You are the most consistent parent I've ever seen in my life. And still sometimes it doesn't make a difference." And so she was like, "I'm basically defeated. Like, I'm not even going to try. Like, who cares?" Right? We all feel that way sometimes, right? And we're just showing up as the best possible version of ourselves. And how that child chooses to behave is not necessarily a reflection on what we're teaching them. If we're being abusive or manipulative, like, that's a different story, right? But my focus as a parent is to show up with love and to teach them. And with closers, you're going to have to hold them really, really accountable.
Well, and you were talking about how your friend feels defeated.
Yeah.
Right? And how we all feel defeated sometimes. The fact is, if you're doing it right, you're going to feel defeated sometimes because this is about agency-based parenting. It's not about forcing your kids to behave a certain way. It's about teaching them that choices have consequences and helping them to see what the consequences of their choices are. And that means, because you're honoring their agency, sometimes they're going to make choices that you disagree with. And it's going to feel defeating because you want your kids to make better choices.
Right.
But the fact is, if they always did exactly what you said, that's probably a fear and intimidation scenario that when they grow older, they're going to rebel against you. Far better that they're young and they're making choices and, like you say, fail early, fail hard. But they make choices that you disagree with because those are teaching moments and because it shows that they feel comfortable at least making choices.
Because the goal in parenting isn't to get my child to do whatever I say whenever I say it.
What?
You're crazy. Am I? Or am I so sane that you just blew your mind?
There are times where children need to listen for valid reasons, right? It's not a free-for-all. It's finding that balance. But when it comes down to it, what I want for my children is I want them to have the morals, the values, the ethics, to be of good character and have the self-discipline to carry that out in their own life. Because I'm not going to college or anywhere else with them. They're going to grow up, they're going to be adults, they're going to be their own person. And they need to know how to make age-appropriate choices for themselves.
Right.
Here's a couple other things that closers need. You'll notice that I asked Bryson a lot of questions.
Bryson. We changed the names for these videos.
Which is very helpful for every personality type. The reality is, nobody likes to be told what to do. Even when we know the right answer, it's particularly insulting to be told what to do. So I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm helping them see their choices, see the other possibility of choices, and see who they actually want to become. So hopefully, someday they do that all within their own brain.
Think.
closers need a high level of autonomy. And so when he gets restless and nervous, and I can tell we're not making a lot of improvement, we're not really getting where in the conversation, I say, do you need a break? And he's like, yeah, I need a break, right? But he also tries to skirt responsibility and accountability all the time. And so I say, okay, let's take a break, but let's talk for 5 more minutes, right? Let's get to a pausing place in the conversation. And so balancing that with a closer for them to make their own choices, for them to feel like they have autonomy is really, really important. And it's really easy to get into a power struggle with a closer because they will create a power struggle out of literally nothing, right? You're just like, I was not.
They need something to push against. They need something to assert themselves against or about.
Helping them achieve that in other areas of your life, when there are points of conflict, it will help ease through the power struggle that might come up.
Yeah,
and so in parenting, it's not even just about this one instance. It's looking at it as a whole and what are those child's needs.
So, are any of you parenting a strong-willed child? What have been your struggles? What have been your successes? Let us know in the comments below, and read each other's comments because we're trying to create a community here where we all learn from one another. If you need extra support in your parent-child relationships, go to mendedlight.com and schedule a complimentary 15-minute consultation with a member of our clinical team, and/or check out our low-cost membership site.
And until next time, remember to keep shining. We need your light.